All right, so sometime back during the winter, during deer season, I got the idea to do some videos about the old way of doing things. And one of the things that I love about where I'm from and my people in southern Appalachia is they were survivors. And I'm sure all across the country, people say the same thing about their people, and they should. And I would encourage them to explore how their people survive, because it's an important part of who you are. And you know, our people for the most part have always been considered poor, and they've just had to scratch out a living in these mountains. And the soil is a lot of times not that great. The terrain is usually very rough and difficult, but somehow these people were able to just you know, work hard and raise families. And so it seems like the generations today have kind of lost a little bit of vision, I guess, of where they came from and the people that came before them. And I think that if they could just take a look back at what their grandparents and their parents and great-grandparents went through in order to bring them what they have now, I think they'd have a greater appreciation for it. I love history. I really love local history. I love the history of my people. And so this is just a little snapshot of my people. I'm sure that a lot of people can share the same story. So I hope you enjoy it. And you know, if you like it, if you thought it was interesting, put a comment in there, and maybe we'll come up with something else to video. All right. What kind of corn is that?
It's just like a hickory cane corn, white corn.
Start with the elevator, take the wind out, fill this whole corn crib right here up, and it'll be up here all the way back
On the cob.
On the cob,
All right.
shucks, a lot of them.
Okay.
And we open that door up, and they'll hook that slide up to the hammer mill. So one person will sit right here on the stool or a bucket, throwing it down in there, and it goes through the hammer mill and comes back up through here.
Good gracious.
And back in the day,
Oh yeah.
they would just take that bag off
Yeah.
and just fill this whole thing up with feed. But it goes into that. It's unhooked right now, but it goes into that, and that's that thing down there when you walk in the door, and they just have it ready. If somebody came in and wanted a bag or two of feed, all they had to do is fill it up right there, and this whole thing would just stay full 24/7. They'd have gluten over here, and they'd have the chopped corn and gluten and everything, or we don't usually do the gluten, but they would have it here, and it'd be the same thing. The hole in the floor there, and they just have this full of gluten all the way to this. Have the corn full over there, the gluten full here. There's the hammers that spin around.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to get your hand in there. And it goes through that screen on the bottom. And this thing spins and blows it up here to that box.
Back to the box that we was talking about, and then
Is he working today?
It comes down right here.
I poured the weed.
And it just,
Saturday? Well, some of them are, ain't they?
I don't think that's the
I just
original.
sent I said, show these to your mom.
Pull that out,
Yeah.
and you got the
You have
counter
to know
here.
what to do to get it. Exercise. And I added this thing.
Is he still keeping up with
But you
it?
know how fine the flour
Yeah.
is, obviously. It's something about the screens in there. We never could find any replacements because by the time we restored it, they'd done been chewed up. And, yeah, there used to be an old John Deere D engine unit that sat here. It wasn't a tractor. It's just, you know, the motor part of it. But that just hooks onto the back of the tractor on the PTO. Like I said, I can't remember if they done that just because we had to use a tractor to
Yeah.
set a little bit. That's what turns this whole entire thing is this one pulley right here.
okay.
And it obviously turns every single one of them. If you want to run one or not want to run one, you can just put a belt on one, or if you can keep a belt on one and just have it knocked out of gear from up top.
Hmm.
This is the one that turns in the room that we was in. This one obviously is unhooked. That's for the next room because we ain't running nothing in there in years. But that'll run the hammer mill, the grist mill, and I think that's all that's in that room. And that just rides that board down through there, you know. They go down through there and dip it up out of the bottom and ride that board all the way up through there. Pretty neat.
Yeah, it looks like a chain of corn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's why
All these floors was full of wheat, and he was trying to get rid of it, so he started running around the clock, and he must have been pretty honest because they said at 12 o'clock on the day before
Yeah,
the deadline,
could've been
yeah,
that day.
he shut her off.
Never did
He wrote it on the wall, and that was the last time. I'm sure he ran feed for people, but since he wrote on everything in here too, he's figured everywhere, all over everything.
Showed that to Ray.
Yeah, he's wrote all over everything in here. This part was built in the 19 teens.
we don't know exactly, like 1915 probably. And the tall part, which is the flour mill, was built in 1936. It was for wheat, and this side was for corn over here.
And who built it, and what are they?
My great grandpa Hiram Shanks built it and built this part, and my grandfather Andrew Shanks built that part. Which I'm sure they worked together on it. I mean, they're both here.
All right, so I've got raw cornmeal, and you can't just make cornbread out of raw cornmeal. You got to have some ingredients, so it's not like the stuff you buy at the store. So I figured the best person I knew to make cornbread out of raw cornmeal would be my mama. So we're gonna watch my mom mix this up and hopefully learn how to do it the old way.
Okay, first I sprayed the skillet with Pam, then I put my oil in it. So what I'm going to do now is sprinkle a little bit of meal in it, and this makes it more crispier on the top, on the bottom, sorry. I'm going to put it on the stove eye. Then I'm going to take, I think we're going to do about 2 cups. When we get it in here, we can tell. You know, I never measured anything. May take more. Maybe about, that should be enough. About 2.5 cups. And we're going to take baking soda, a baking powder, and we'll put a tablespoon of baking powder in here. Then baking soda. Always, if you use buttermilk, it's better to use baking soda. So we're going to put about a teaspoon of baking soda in it. Then, I don't measure the buttermilk, I just pour it in there. So, sometimes, if you don't want your cornbread really crumbly, you could add a little bit of mayonnaise to it, and it keeps it from being real crumbly. So, I don't know how much milk I used. I just stir it up till I think it's okay. I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons, well, heaping spoons, full of flour to this mix. And then you just stir it really good. Make sure you get it all mixed up good.
So what kind of thickness are we looking for?
Thickness in this?
Yeah.
Just so you about get it up on your spoon where it'll drip off like that. You don't want to make it too thick. Now, if you're making like hoe cakes, you make it thicker than this because you don't want them to go all over your skillet when you spoon them in there. But now for cornbread, you don't make it near as thick. See, it'll pour out in there. So the oven should be hot. Yeah. So we're going to put it in the oven.
Here.
Oh, this is not hot yet.
You want me to do it?
No, I got this one.
Well, did you ever have to cook on a wood stove?
Lord, yes. I used to get up in the morning, build a fire, and fix breakfast when Mom was going midwifing.
When she was midwifing.
Yeah,
And was that over in Preston's home?
in Poor Valley.
In Poor Valley. Well,
So when I was, I guess I was around 14, 15-year-old.
Hmm.
So I fixed us breakfast before we got ready for school and before Dad went to work.
Well, what kind of things did you eat back then that we don't normally eat now?
Oh,
Did you eat a lot of poke salad?
well, Mom fixed a lot. I never did eat very much of it. I didn't care for it, but now a lot of people did. And Mom fixed it a lot, but she got out in the spring and got creases from around the creek, and she fixed a lot of creases, and she has canned creases. Only time I ever went to the store for anything, actually the meal, was Grandpa would take his corn and swap it for meal and flour. Other than that, we had everything else we needed, the cows and everything. So
What mill did he go to? The one in Rogersville?
one in Roswell Milling Company.
The flour sacks and the meal sacks that you got, did you ever have any clothes that was made out of them?
Not the meal flour and flour sacks, because they was mostly paper. But now what I had all my clothes made out of was what they took, the chicken feed that they got at Pressman's home was sacks that we got and made dresses out of them. That's all I ever wore to school. When I started high school, that's all the dresses I had, was skirts and dresses made out of chicken feed sacks.
Chicken feed. Addison's got a dress, right?
Addison has got Mama's dress. It's at my house. And my mom and Aunt Willie made it out of feed sacks. And
They made that dress for your mama?
yeah,
Okay.
they made her all of her dresses,
She
and they
must
all
have-
made just about the same.
Did you ever eat any possum?
Yes, I have.
Did you? Well, did you like it?
Well, I'll tell you what, the way my mom fixed it, she would, Fred and Dad would skin the possum and clean them and everything, and Mom would put it on. She would parboil it. That means she put it on the stove and let it boil a while. And then she'd take it out, clean it, and put oil all over it, and put it in the oven and bake it. And it was good.
Yeah. And it's starting pretty good. We put the oven on low broil to kind of get the top of it crispy, so she says. Now, I don't know nothing about it, but that's the way we're going. All right.
Looks good, don't it?
It does look good.
But see, that's really not hard.
Yeah.
It just keeps it from sticking.
Gotcha.
Ta-da!
Look at that.
Might have made it a little firmer.
Well, be kind of. Cornbread and milk was one of the premier snacks, I guess, or suppers for my dad. So I want to say a thank you to Mike Shanks from Shanks Milling Company in Sigornsville, and a special thank you also to Kelly Shanks for the tour around the mill while it was operating. He was letting me see all the intricate details of it, and it was just amazing. So thank you to those guys for inviting me up to video. I want to say thank you also to the Weston family, who donated some meal from the Livesey mill. That is, it's no longer in operation here in Kyle's Ford, but the mill now is I think in Wilson County. It's at the Wilson. You'll see it at the Wilson County Fair in Tennessee, and so they got that mill from the Livesey mill over in Kyle's Ford, restored it, got it running, and now they put it on exhibit there at the county fair. Last but not least, my mama. She's 85 years old, soon to be 86 this month, and without her, I wouldn't know how to make cornbread with raw meal. So I really appreciate my mom
taking the time out to do that with me. It's a great memory for me, and it was mighty good eating. So hope you enjoy this video. Let me know.